rating agencies.
Well, the U.S. governments, the state governments are suing Standard
the
&
S&P
Poor's.
500, that's right, rating agency.
Yeah. Standard & Poor's is on its way to writing a nice little check.
Do you think this could have something to do with them lowering the government's
Are you
credit
saying
rating?
there's
Do you think there could be a conflict of interest?
Well, speaking of conflicts of interest,
Right.
this is probably the perfect introduction into our topic today when we talk about when we're looking at annuities and insurance companies.
Yes.
The rating agencies, how do they go about determining these rating agencies and how they're going to be selected and how their criteria?
Well, it's very interesting, and as you know, you read these articles about the rating agencies out there, Eric. So many of them actually are paid by the folks they're rating.
That's exactly. So I'm an insurance company. I want to be rated. I write you a check to come in
and rate me
and look at my books.
Right.
So is there a conflict of interest there, perhaps?
I think we'd have to say yes.
Now, if you're going to give me a bad rating, wouldn't I be better off just not having you come in and look at the books?
Well, that being the case, you would have competitors out there that would have positive ratings and you would have poor ratings or no ratings, so you're forced to comply.
Right.
Now, is that to say that because there is this conflict of interest that exists, that you can't rely on any ratings agencies?
No. And I say this as I say it, the everyman type of philosophy in the sense of if I wanted to go in and evaluate each insurance company on my own merits, where I wanted to walk in and say, all right, show me your books, show me your balance sheet, I'm going to determine if this is a safe place to put my money.
You'd have to take a battery of
I don't have the
CPAs,
manpower.
attorneys.
Exactly.
Right.
So what we're doing is we're having to rely on these third-party agencies, which have been doing this for hundreds of years in some cases,
right,
to take a look and say, all right, what is the financial status? What's a third-party review of where they're at financially?
And if we go from the investment world and we look at some things that have been going on, packaging the mortgages and this type of thing, the ratings agencies did miss it.
Well, and that was always the question. How could they miss it? And there's some suggestions that perhaps they didn't even follow their own standards when doing those evaluations. And then, of course, we hear about things in the recent past, not so recent past, like Enron, where they were too late to the bell, and then it even goes back to the 1970s, where the city, New York City, had its issues, and of course the ratings agencies didn't quite get on top of that in time. So,
yes. Now I look at insurance companies a little differently, and I think there's good reason for that, and that is that state by state they have what we would call a statutory type accounting requirement, where it would maybe a good description of it would be show me the cash.
Yeah.
In other words, they can't use what's the generally acceptable accounting practices, the GAAP method, which is used by corporations. And that allows corporations to put things off into the future, to hide present income or to hide present expenses, to kind of cook the books, not used properly. It's used properly. It's fair. Yeah. But if you want to cook the books, you can do it sometimes. And
there's a little bit more manipulative.
The Enron example would be good. But when it comes to insurance companies, they have to have everything transparent out in the open in this statutory type accounting. So the third-party rating agencies have quite an advantage there.
Yeah, and we have a favorite in the sense of when we typically have a conversation with a client, we tend to use AM Best because of their history with evaluating insurance companies. And that's what you want, a consistency across time. And with AM Best, since
they've been doing it for over 100 years. And the thing that I like about it is that they have such a history that when you go back and you look at companies, that things don't change fast.
Right.
So a rating where a company has an A or A plus rating, if they were to move down to maybe all the way down to a B rating, that could take place over years and years and years. It isn't typically anything that happens overnight.
Well, let's talk about ratings, and I hate to use the example of one company, but it's AIG.
Okay, everyone knows
Everybody
AIG.
knows AIG, and here it is. Here's a company that had an A rating on the insurance side.
Yes.
Now, there's always some question as to, all right, were they really in trouble in the sense of when they're going through a government bailout, all these things are happening.
And they were rated A by AM Best.
How could this happen?
And yet, Even CNN reported that folks may need to be aware because of AIG going through all of this trouble.
Right.
And it really had more to do with their investment side. And amazingly, their insurance side was A-rated, remained A-rated, is still A-rated, and very safe and secure.
Yeah, and that's where you have to look at a company, when it's a large company like that, that has multiple divisions.
Right.
The insurance side may be a separate entity than what's maybe getting the black marks out there.
Exactly. And what would have actually taken place with AIG or other insurance companies is if they really had gotten into trouble, all of the assets are there that gives them an A rating.
Right.
They would have been put in receivership. So a more profitable company that has economies of scale, is making a profit off of their assets, would have all of AIG's assets moved over to them, and they would continue to operate profitably with those assets.
So, all right. So I guess let's look at this in totality now. So if I'm somebody coming in looking at annuities, can I rely on these third